Pokémon Gold and Silver were the second main series Pokémon games ever released, and were widely considered to be one of the best Pokémon games along with their Nintendo DS remakes, Pokémon Heart Gold and Soul Silver. Pokémon Gold and Silver did a lot to push the Pokémon franchise forward and keep it going as Pokemania began to die down during the life cycle of Gold and Silver. And today I want to talk about some weird or interesting facts about Pokémon Gold and Silver that you might not have known before. This first one is pretty widely known, but it's still a pretty interesting one, and that's Pokémon Gold and Silver were originally intended to be the last Pokémon games in the series and started development before Pokemania really took off in the West. However, due to Pokemon being such a big hit, especially in America, the series continued after Gold and Silver and is still going even to this day, over 20 years after the release of Gold and Silver. Pokemon Gold and Silver are also the only paired game to have mostly different sprites for each Pokemon in each version. While most are rather minor differences, such as a Pokemon's hands being up versus a Pokemon's hands being down, it was a nice little touch, and I'll throw in some examples right here so you can see. In the Japanese and Korean versions of Pokemon Gold and Silver, the Donphan line is exclusive to Gold version, while the Ursaring line is exclusive to Silver version. This was reversed in the Western releases of the games, with Donphan line being exclusive to Silver and the Ursaring line being exclusive to Gold. The weirder part about this is that Pokemon Gold and Silver released in North America and Australia in October of 2000, while the Korean version didn't come out until 2002. This means that these two version exclusive Pokemon were switched and then switched back twice. This was most likely because the Korean version was based on the Japanese version versus the Australian or American version, which was also, strangely enough, published by a company called Daewon in South Korea and not Nintendo. All of the gym leaders in the Johto region specialize in a different type from the original gyms that existed in Kanto. The only types that aren't represented in gyms in Gold and Silver in Johto or Kanto are the Dark type and the Ground type, since Giovanni, who was the Ground type gym leader of Red and Blue, was replaced by Blue or Green, his name varies depending on what language your game is in, meaning that up until this point, Dark was also the only type to never have a gym, and it would stay like that for quite a while. Pokemon Gold and Silver also introduced a new item called the Berserk gene, which never appeared in the main series Pokemon game ever again after Crystal version. The Berserk gene was a held item that would be consumed at the very start of battle when the Pokemon was sent out, and would confuse the user but raise their attack by 2 stages. This might sound like it would balance itself out since you would hurt yourself a lot from confusion, but could be abused with things like Baton Pass to make this item even better. This item would have been even stronger if it stuck around for future generations, since abilities allow you to abuse something like this even more, and could possibly even circumvent the confusion. This item was mentioned in the Detective Pikachu movie that released last year though, so it wasn't completely forgotten in the Pokemon world. In Kanto, some towns use themes that were used for other towns in Red and Blue. For example, Cerulean City uses Pewter City's theme, while Fuchsia City uses Celadon's theme, and Cinnabar Island uses Saffron City's theme. On Route 13, there is a trainer named Pokefan Alex. All of his Pokemon have names that end in King in Japanese, for example, Koi King, which is Magikarp in Japanese, roughly translated. This Magikarp was replaced with Sea King in the Western releases of the games to fit the theme though, with his other 2 Pokemon being Nidoking and Slowking, since obviously Magikarp in English doesn't end with King, but Sea King does. Pokemon Gold and Silver were the first Pokemon games to introduce shiny Pokemon, however some shiny Pokemon sprites in Gold and Silver were changed to be different colors in later generations. The existence of shiny Pokemon is largely because of the Game Boy Color being able to display colors, although you could still play Pokemon Gold and Silver on an original Game Boy, just without the proper colors of course, except for the Korean version. The Korean version can only be played on the Game Boy Color, since the Korean characters require more memory to display in order for the Game Boy to display them, and the extra power of the Game Boy Color was needed. This is yet another reason why the Korean version of Gold and Silver is one of the weirder versions of any Pokemon game to ever release. Gold and Silver are the only Pokemon games that you can trade directly with a game from the previous generation, in this case Pokemon Red, Blue, or Yellow. This can be done by using the time capsule, although in order to trade a Pokemon back to a Generation 1 game, it has to be a Pokemon that exists in Generation 1 and is compatible with the Pokédex. There are some glitches involved with this with some of the Generation 1 glitch Pokemon, such as all the Missing No variants, and when some of these glitch Pokemon are traded over to a Generation 2 game, they are actually transformed to a Generation 2 Pokemon instead. Some Pokemon traded to Gold and Silver from a Generation 1 game would be holding a held item as well, which is interesting because Pokemon were unable to hold items in the Generation 1 Pokemon games. Most of the held items end up being berries, but the more notable items include Clefable holding a Leftovers, Staryu holding the TM for Reflect, and Chansey holding a signature item the Lucky Punch if traded over to a Gen 2 game. Pokemon Silver slightly outsold Pokemon Gold worldwide. Typically with paired Pokemon games, the name that comes first in the pair tends to sell better, but Silver version is one of the very few exceptions. Gold and Silver combined are also the third best-selling games on the Game Boy Color with 23 million copies sold, while their DS remakes on the DS are the 8th best-selling game on the DS with 12.7 million copies sold. The only games to outsell Gold and Silver are Pokemon Red and Blue in the number 2 slot with about 31.4 million copies, and Tetris in the number 1 slot with 35 million copies sold, and a lot of the Tetris sales can be attributed to the fact that Tetris was actually bundled with the original Game Boy when it first came out. The entire Cyndaquil line shares the exact same stat line as their counterparts in the Charizard Evolutionary line, while the Meganium and Venusaur lines share very similar stats except for their defense and special attack, which are flipped, but the rest of them are the same. With Blastoise and the Feraligatr lines, however, they have different stat lines for each stat, but their base stat totals are the same and the stat number of every stat is the same, just applied to a different stat, with the exception of their speed, which is all the same. Similar to the Kanto region, the Johto region is also part of Japan, known as the Kansai region, which is adjacent to the Kanto region in actual Japan. The Kansai region has a lot of traditional Japanese architecture and history, which was a big influence for the Johto region. Johto has a lot of traditional Japanese architecture and history into it, and does a great job of representing the area that the region is based off of. That's part of the reason why I personally really enjoy the Johto region as a whole, as it feels pretty unique from every other region. The Lake of Raids was actually originally supposed to be its own town in Gold and Silver and feature a gym. This was speculated for quite some time since you are able to fly there despite it not being a town, which isn't typical for a place you should be able to fly to. This was actually true as we ended up learning up from the recent Pokemon Gold and Silver leaks about their beta and their development in general, although this was changed during the development of Gold and Silver, which received a lot of changes in development overall. I unfortunately can't share or show too much about the Pokemon Gold and Silver beta, due to risk of this video being taken down by Nintendo since they didn't really intend for this information to be out there, but maybe in the future I'll be allowed to make a video focusing on the Pokemon Gold and Silver beta, since there's a lot of interesting information involved with it. In 2017, the 3DS Virtual Console releases of Pokemon Gold and Silver had some changes from the original games. For example, Jinx's sprite was changed in every language version of the game to represent the English version sprite, as the Japanese sprite was a lot darker, and many move animations were also altered to reduce some flashing that would happen with certain attacks, and also rapidly changing colors, which could disturb some people. And those are just some weird or interesting facts about Pokemon Gold and Silver. I tried my best to include some of the more interesting facts as well as a lot of obscure facts instead of focusing mostly on the widely known facts, so hopefully most people watching this video learned some facts they didn't know before, and if you actually knew all of these before watching this video, let me know in the comments down below. If you are interested in checking out my previous Pokemon Facts video on the Kanto region, I'll leave it linked below, and if you want to see me continue this series and do facts about Ruby and Sapphire or the Hoenn region, let me know in the comment section down below. Also be sure to leave a like if you enjoyed the video, as it helps the channel a ton and keeps YouTube promoting my channel, which is great, and subscribe so you don't miss any future Pokemon videos. Thank you all so much for watching, have a great rest of your day, I will see you all next time, and bye bye.